So today we're going to be talking about my 3 tips for handling your money as an actor. And these are super important in my opinion because as any person starting a business will find, as actors, oftentimes when we're just starting out, our expenses as actors are higher than our income as actors. And that's a tough spot to be in, right? You're running a business and you're like, okay, I really want to pursue this acting thing for real. And, you might quit your full-time job so that you have more flexibility to pursue auditions. There are a lot of sacrifices that you have to make to really go for acting in a focused way. And oftentimes those don't align with making the most money, right? When you are building your website building your resume at first, you might be working a lot for free as an actor. So there is actually a chapter in my ebook, The Guru's Guide to Getting in the Room, that's called Conserve Resources for This Race. And pro members of Acting Resource Guru get that, so I'd recommend you join pro if you don't have it. But this chapter is all about time and money, because I really believe that in order to get in the room, in order to book work, we really need to be thoughtful about how we spend our time and how we spend our money. And so I'm going to talk about the topic of money today. As actors, it's really easy to bury our heads in the sand and ignore what's happening with our money because our income can be so unpredictable, right? But my recommendation for you and what we're going to be talking about today is how to weather this journey as an actor without depriving yourself of being a happy person and just having enough money to live a normal life and be happy, even if you're not booking the level of acting jobs that you want yet. I believe that if you are happy, you are more likely to book those jobs for lots of reasons that we talk about all the time, but it's a lot easier. But yeah, the reality is that our income is unpredictable, right? We have sporadic acting bookings. We can't predict those. It's my alarm. If we have booked jobs and we're getting residuals, those are also sporadic, not so predictable. And we also might have side gigs to make money, day job, whatever. But oftentimes they're flexible because we need to be able to audition. So they're also kind of sporadic. Like a lot of us might be independent contractors, assistants, or work in the restaurant industry, or DJs, or whatever. So oftentimes that doesn't lead to a particularly predictable stream of income. And so I think a lot of us as actors have trouble managing the flow of our income. But we as actors are also resourceful. I bet your income may come from a lot of places. There was a time where I had 4 jobs as an actor. I tend to have a lot of jobs anyway. I had 4 jobs as a college student, but that's another story, right? Maybe you have a couple of jobs. Maybe you're getting help from your family, as well as having some income as an actor. But a lot of us are waiting for that big job to come in and save us. I know that I suffered from this for a long time. I said, it doesn't matter how much I put on my credit cards. I'm going to book a big job and I'm going to just pay it all off, right? And if you're doing that, you're not really truly taking care of yourself. Now I view handling my finances as a form of self-care, and I really focus on that. Because I think that oftentimes money won't come in until you are a good steward, a good caretaker of that money. If you're wondering why you're not booking more paying jobs, I encourage you to look at what you're doing with the money that you have now. Are you ready to make more money? Are you ready to take good care of that money? Are you ready to be an actor who works consistently? How will you make good decisions with the money you make? So I have 3 tips for handling your money as an actor. Tip number 1 is to start with awareness. How much money did you make last month? Can you answer that question? Okay, so in the month of April, I made $0, right? Or not $0, but an amount of dollars. Do you know that amount? You should know that amount. Do you know how much money you spent last month? You should know that amount as well. If the money that you're spending is higher than the money that you're making, it's time to make some sort of adjustment, but you have to be aware. Okay. How much are you saving for the future? One of the tools that I want to share with you today is a very handy budgeting sheet for actors. You can download that at actingresourceguru.com/budget. And this sheet will help you, I'll actually show it to you. This sheet will help you get really clear on what your expenses are, what your income is, and then what the difference is. Okay. I actually customized this for actors. So it includes all of the expenses that we have as actors as well. So again, download this at actingresourceguru.com/budget. Okay. Tip number 2. So tip number 1 is to get aware, use my budgeting sheet to do that. Tip number 2 is to start saving now, even if you don't think you can afford it. I really encourage you to take care of yourself by paying yourself first. And this is crazy, I know, because you might be thinking, well, Asia Ray, there's nothing left over. After I pay my expenses every month, there's nothing left. And I get it. I totally get it. But I really, really, really stress that it's important for you to pay yourself first and then figure out how to spend the rest. So you can start with a really low number, right? Start with 1%. 1% of your income. So if you're making $1,500 a month, all I want you to do is save $15. Okay? Have a savings account, throw that into the savings account, and you will at least develop the habit of saving some money, and you can build as your resources build to something like 10%, 20%, right? But one of the things that we really need to do is save for retirement. The percentage of Americans who are saving for retirement actively is so low. But especially if you're a young person, especially if you're under 40 or so, the time that you allow your money to grow is really working in your favor. So you really want to start saving some money now. Okay. Start with 1%. Okay. So that's tip number 2. Tip number 1 was start with awareness. Tip number 2 is to start saving now. Tip number 3 is to educate yourself. Start reading financial books. Start reading financial magazines like Money. I really love Money magazine. Finances can be intimidating, especially if you're reading all these terms and you're like, I don't know what this means. Like, what is the difference between a 401k and an IRA? What's the difference between an index fund and a managed account, right? So it can definitely be a little intimidating at first. I identify with that. But you've got to put on the big girl panties or the big boy panties, whatever you wear, and dive in. It's really not that bad once you get started. You can do this, okay? So here are some of my favorite books that I've been reading lately over the past several years. This one is a great book especially for women. It's called Overcoming Under-Earning, a 5-Step Plan to a Richer Life. It's by Barbara Stanny. Barbara Stanny is a really interesting person because she was completely oblivious to her finances until she had a divorce. And she is the daughter of the founder of H&R Block. So she had a pretty huge inheritance from her dad. And she realized once she got divorced that her husband had completely mismanaged all of her inheritance because he had a gambling problem. So she ended up with not only zero money, but also like $1 million in debt. So I bet that your financial situation is not as dire as that. And you can probably learn a lot from Barbara. I would also recommend, and this is the book that I've recommended to coaching clients, Money, A Love Story by Kate Northrup. These two women both prove that no matter how much money you grew up with, you can still have money issues. And she talks about her kind of getting honest with herself and really overcoming those issues. Another book that I recommend, and this one's a big one, so maybe start small. Or you can listen to this as an audiobook. That's something that I've been doing lately. Tony Robbins' book, Money, Master the Game, 7 Simple Steps to Financial Freedom. It's really good. I haven't actually finished this one yet because I'm kind of reading it in chunks. But Tony talks to some of the most successful, ultra wealthy people and gets their insider tools that people who aren't wealthy can also use. And I feel like he explains things about money in a really clear way. It's really easy to understand because Tony Robbins is used to being a coach, so check this one out. One that I don't have a copy of because I've been listening to it on audio and I just finished it a couple weeks ago is a book called Worth It by Amanda Steinberg. She's the founder of Worth FM, which is a really great online tool for money. And I would highly recommend her book as well. She reads it on Audible, so you can download that as well. Okay? So, in summary, 3 tips. Start with awareness. Download my money tracking sheet, my budget tracking sheet at actingresourceguru.com. I have a money tracker that I use called YNAB. You need a budget, YNAB. And I also, on this tracking system, give you a resource to get a free month of YNAB. So you can check that out. YNAB is great for actors because it's really good at dealing with variable income, which a lot of us have. Tip number 2, start saving now. Even if you don't think you can afford it, start with 1%. And tip number 3 is to educate yourself. Grab the books that I recommended. Start listening to audiobooks about money on your commute, and that will lead you to other ideas for things you can do. It will help you get clear on what your financial priorities should be, because I can't tell you that, right? That's only something that you know yourself.